Hey guys, on today's mastery lesson, we're going to be talking about why it's so difficult to change and what you can do about it. You see, when I got started on my personal development journey, I was constantly plagued by starting and stopping new habits and behaviors. I'd be super motivated and want to take massive action, but inevitably I would fall short, quit, or stop too soon and lose my confidence in wanting to implement these new habits and behaviors. That wasn't until I learned the tactics that I'm going to be sharing with you guys on this video and how to apply them for sustainable long-term growth. So let's go ahead and get started. Hey, what's going on, you guys? It's Adam over at Teach You Freedom, where, as you know, it is our mission to help you remove the mental and emotional barriers that are keeping you from living life on your terms. On today's mastery lesson, we're going to be talking about why it's so difficult to change, right? And it's truly a paradox. Why is changing so difficult? Why is it so hard to start a new habit or routine or a behavior or really anything in life, right? And before we dive into some of the big ideas and the tactics that I'm going to be sharing with you, I want to talk about a concept that I think really sets a good foundation for what we're going to be discussing. And it has to do with equilibrium. Whether you know it or not, the world within you and the world around you is constantly looking for balance or equilibrium. Take your body, for example. It's constantly seeking homeostasis or a homeostatic state, right? When you get hungry, your body releases hormones that make you want to eat. When you're too full, your body releases hormones that tell you to stop eating, right? When you're tired, you sleep. When your blood pressure gets too low, your heartbeat increases. When your blood pressure gets too high, your kidneys flush out water in the form of urine to help you lower your blood pressure, right? It's this constant feedback loop, this constant balance. And these feedback loops are what keep us stable. And that stability is great until one thing. Exactly, until we want to change, which leads me to big idea number one. So big idea number one is the myth of massive radical change. Now, if you listen to any self-development guru out there, they'll tell you if you want massive results in your life, you need to take massive action. And although that's super inspiring, unfortunately it contradicts everything we know about behavior change, right? When we get too far outside of our comfort zone, that equilibrium forces and that feedback loops will do everything it can to resist the change that we want to make and keep us in that stable state, right? A good law I like to use is that the amount of resistance you're going to feel when you're making changes is in direct proportion to the size and speed in which you're trying to make that change, right? Which is to say, the faster and the more massive change you try to make, the more resistance you're going to be met with. And if you're watching this video, I'm sure you guys have probably been met with massive resistance when you've been trying to change, right? The idea is that you get super motivated to make massive changes in your life, but life inevitably happens to keep you stuck, right? You want to implement a new diet or a new workout routine, and then you go out to dinner with friends and there's nothing on the menu you can eat, so you end up falling off track, or you're not used to running 5 miles a day and you get tired, you stay up late one night and you just want to sleep in, and then you fall off track. It's really difficult. And a funny story I like to tell is, when I was first reading Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins, which is a great book, he preaches taking massive action. So I was like, great, I'm ready to take massive action. So what did I do? I said, I'm going to become a vegan, right? For the next month, I'm going to be completely vegan. And on the very first night, I went out to eat with my friends and I saw nothing on the menu that I could eat. And I was like, I'm not skipping a meal. So I ended up eating chicken wings on the very first night of being vegan. So, the myth of massive radical change is true. And it opposes everything we know about behavior change. You're going to be met with more resistance, the more radical, and the quicker you try to make changes. So then it begets the question, what do we do? So big idea number two then, and big idea number two has two components. It's the ideal growth rate and 1% marginal gains, right? So ideal growth rate. Everything in life has an ideal growth rate. Whether you're an oak tree or you're a human or you're a dog, right? There's an optimum path of growth. It's just like, the Goldilocks rule. This one's too hot, this one's too cold, this one's just right. The best way for me to comprehend this is I want you guys to imagine that you're going to the gym, right? If you went to the gym and you wanted to build muscle, if you just sat there and you were curling 2-pound weights, that wouldn't really tax your body enough to really stimulate any growth, and you wouldn't see any results. On the opposite end of the spectrum, if you went there and you just put as much weight as you could on the bar, completely maxed out, what would probably happen is you'd end up getting hurt, too stressed, get sick, and then you wouldn't be able to show up for the next week, right? So that would be too much. where the optimal growth rate lies is somewhere in between, right? Something that's not too much or too little. And a good rule of thumb for me is that systems tend to not like extremes, right? Systems don't like the minimum and systems don't like the maximum. There's an ideal rate in the middle that systems tend to thrive on. And behaviors are a system, growing muscle is a system. Everything is systems in our lives, so we need to find that optimal growth rate. So if we're looking for an ideal growth rate, how do we implement that, right? And the best way that I've found is by 1% marginal gains. Now, when I say 1% marginal gains, what I really mean is that your previous best is now your new baseline, right? When you're going to the gym and you're consistently lifting 100 pounds, right? Adding 5 pounds each week isn't enough to completely throw you off track, but it's still enough to stimulate your muscle growth, right? So let's say you're benching 100 pounds, you throw on another 5 pounds one week, the next week you throw another 5 pounds on, and that could be your optimal growth rate. And a lot of people give me a lot of pushback and say, Adam, 1% is not enough. You don't understand. I want to be successful now. I want to have a new workout routine now. I want to have abs now. And the reality is that nothing is more sustainable than 1% growth. And if you don't believe in the power of 1% growth, let me share a story with you guys. I love the story of the British cycling team, which, previous to having this new coach, they had never won a Tour de France, not very competitive in the Olympics, but when they brought on this new coach, he said, I believe that we can have a Tour de France winner in the next 5 years. So what did he do? He started split testing different massage gels. He started finding the most aerodynamic suits. He started trying different pillows for the riders. He started bringing the mattresses with them when they traveled so they could have the same quality of sleep wherever they went. And what ended up happening is they didn't win the Tour de France in 5 years. They ended up winning it in 3 years. And then over the course of the 2008, 2012, and 2016 Olympics, they accumulated something like 60 to 70% of all the gold medals. So when people tell me they don't believe in the power of 1% growth, it's the most powerful tool we have to creating sustainable change. Remember, the goal is not to get results tomorrow. It's to have results for the rest of your life. And the way we can sustain long-term growth is by slowly aggregating and finding that ideal growth rate for those 1% marginal gains. So why is behavior change so hard? It's because we believe this myth that to get massive results, we need to take massive action, when really the ideal growth rate is somewhere in the middle, and the way we can achieve that is by having 1% gains. Those are all the big ideas that I have for you guys today. If you guys enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments down below. If you guys have other big ideas that you want me to explore, let me know down there as well. If not, I'll talk to you guys soon on next week's mastery lesson.